Border Management Authority Commissioner Michael Masiapato says around 300,000 people have been processed at the Lubombo border post since the start of the month. It comes as travelers make their way to various African countries for the festive holidays. Masiapato joins us now for more on the operations at the border post. A very good evening to you, Commissioner. We speak once again. Yesterday while you and I were having our conversation, you mentioned how Lubombo processes some of the highest numbers after OR Tambo now processing over 25,000 travelers in just a few days is quite significant. How does this compare to previous festive seasons in terms of the volume and operational capacity?
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Katleho. We really appreciate once again the opportunity as the Border Management Authority. Yes, indeed, Lubombo is number one now in terms of land ports when it comes to the processing of individuals. So they have effectively surpassed Beitbridge, which used to be one of the top land ports as it were. Now, in terms of comparative numbers, I can indicate that last year, if you remember, there was political unrest in Mozambique during this particular period. So on that basis, there's a lot of Mozambicans during that time who did not go home. So on that basis, this year is very hectic. I have been here for the past 3 days or 2 days, and I can assure you it has been very, very hectic. And of course, as I said yesterday, we've been processing around 25,000 individuals a day on day. But of course, that has been just the average. We have just done some bit of aggregation from the 10th of December when we started with this operation, and we are now sitting at around 300,000 that we've been able to process. So today, it was one of the days which was very much hectic, and we are actually hoping that we should be able to even finish the team or the people that are on the ground. So effectively, we are expecting the numbers after they've been aggregated for today to be at around 30,000 that we would have processed today. And of course, tomorrow being the last day before Christmas, we are then going to do the last draw of those people that will be coming through to the port.
So, Commissioner, you mentioned that last year there was political unrest, and I suppose many could not cross that particular border post. But is it too early to tell as to why this heightened activity now? You're saying that Lubombo has now even surpassed Beitbridge?
Yeah, so Katla, our projections are on the basis that because last year people could not necessarily go through because of those intermittent activities. So on that basis, most of the people who might not have been able to during the course of the year, in terms of the current, then they had to come through. So that is what we understand to be the main driver in terms of a number of people coming through into the port. But at the same time, Katleho, you will be aware for Lubombo that even if we talk about Mozambicans that are coming through here, we also have a number of South Africans that are going to Mozambique for holiday purposes. Last year, most of their bookings had to be cancelled because of the political unrest. So we believe that when we interact with them, they do indicate that some of those holidays that were booked then were actually drifted through or they were pushed through into this period. And that is why there's high numbers of people coming through. So it's basically Mozambicans, but we also have South Africans, but we also have some of the Malawians that are going through via Mozambique and go up into Malawi. So that is basically the essence in terms of the numbers of the people that we are dealing with. In terms of the movement of cargo, for instance, Katleho is on the basis that because most companies are about to be closing, they've really pushed a lot of trucks. And that is why we've been trying to balance through the processing of both trucks as well as the people.
Commissioner, you've been stationed there. What would you say are the fundamental challenges that your team is facing in managing some of those high traffic volumes, especially during peak days?
Yeah, what we can say, I think this is one thing that we keep on emphasizing. And I think at the end, the colleagues that really comes to the ports will be able to confirm the reality. We definitely become seriously overstretched. We do understand that there is challenge in terms of the infrastructure layout of the port. But even as we create additional temporary processing areas, we continue to struggle to be able to meet the demand. And that is why the issue that we are operating at 25% as an organization is very much real. And that is why in terms of queue management within the port, at least the Department of Tourism gave us some young people that they call tourism monitors. So they are assisting us in terms of managing the activities, in terms of queue management in port. In terms of the corridor, obviously, we do have a lot of other law enforcement structures, inclusive of the traffic as well as the defense. Oh, by the way, we even had to request the defense force to assist, particularly during today in terms of corridor management, primarily because of some bit of unruly behaviors of some of the drivers. So those are some of the challenges that we are dealing with. But the most central challenge is the capacity, particularly when it comes to immigration capacity, because we need to be able to process the numbers. But by the way, even as we deal with the number of people exiting, there are a lot of people that are also coming in. And most of those are coming to the town of Komati Port to buy some groceries and still travel back. So on that basis, it becomes very much difficult to be able to completely manage the situation in the manner we want to achieve. And I suppose when we get to next year, this time BMA will have better capacity, and I suppose I will say the authorities in the environment will necessarily be able to appreciate the work that is being done and ultimately be able to assist us in terms of financial resources.
So, Commissioner, I mean, speaking about the resources that you're short on and just processing some of those numbers, particularly when it comes to immigration, what then specific measures do you have in place to expedite processing for different categories of travelers? I mean, you've got pedestrians, you've got small vehicle users, you've got public transport passengers. How then do you stretch your resources in that regard?
So what we ultimately had to do, Katleho, on the basis of the challenges that we are dealing with, we had to effectively get some of our conventional border guards. Basically, these are your law enforcers. We also got them to be trained in as much in terms of immigration management is concerned. So on that basis, we ultimately, in this situation, when we create more additional processing areas, we get them to actually convert to become immigration officers. That on its own is a bit of a challenge, primarily because we have to be dealing with individuals, as I said yesterday, who try to go out of the port and try to exit the country through the borderline. Yesterday, we spoke about 50 that we arrested, and of course, today we arrested over 100. And we do believe that tomorrow there will be a lot of people that will be trying to go into the borderline. So on that basis, we can say, for us to be able to manage the numbers of people that comes through in terms of immigration, we therefore take the border guards and then deploy them on the workstations, meaning behind the computers, and do immigration work. That is a bit of a challenge, but of course, we have to do the work, and that is why it becomes very central, the issue of capacity.
And I suppose it also just impacts on you finding that balance between going through thorough security checks and as well as just that goal of facilitating faster border crossings.
Yes, indeed. You see, the work that we do is actually twofold. Firstly, is to ensure that there is seamless as well as smooth processing of those people that are law-abiding. These are individuals that are actually having proper documentation. These are individuals that are going back home in terms of Mozambicans, or these are South Africans that are going for tourism purposes. We need to make sure that they don't stand in queues for that long. And that is one of the fundamental responsibilities that we have to discharge in terms of Section 5 of the Border Management Authority Act, which is about facilitating and managing the legitimate movement of people. But at the same time, we have those that are doing criminal activities, and that will include having to exit the corridor and go into the bushes. Those are the ones that we have to intercept, make sure they are brought into the port. But at the same time, there are those criminal elements that are also wanting to exit things that they would have stolen in the country that they want to exit out, and all of those. We need to be able to also deal with those. And that is now the criminality aspect of our work. So once we take the border guards out of that part and bring them into the counters, and unfortunately, it compromises our other part of the work, which is dealing with criminality. But of course, we get assisted by members of the SAPS together with the SNDF to at least cover that particular loophole. And unfortunately, we continue to do with the little that we have. And of course, we just plead that if we can get more resources, we should be able to deliver a better service.
No, most certainly. And I suppose as authorities, we've also just urged travelers to also plan ahead. How important is public cooperation and awareness in the lack of certain resources in ensuring a hassle-free border crossing experience, especially during peak times?
Yes, indeed, Katleho, that is one of the fundamental points. And that is why we keep on saying to the travelers, please arrive at port on time. That's number one. Number two, people must comply to the basic rules of the road in terms of traffic laws, especially when they come to the corridor. It becomes very much difficult when people start driving on oncoming traffic towards the port, because those people that are supposed to be exiting the port into the country, they become stuck because now they face people that are actually driving on their lane, and it becomes very much problematic. So effectively, we keep on calling on all the travelers to make sure that they are patient in terms of driving on the corridor. We do not have much issues on passenger vehicles, the buses, the taxis, because ultimately they are able to bring the people who then comes through to the port as pedestrians. So on that basis, it's not much of a challenge. The bigger challenge are the people that are driving smaller vehicles, because they continue to cause some bit of challenges. Because at the same time, we also have to make way for the traders, for the trucks that we also need to process on the bypass for them to be able to enter Mozambique as efficient as possible.
And just broadly, Commissioner, I mean, you speak about some of the shortages that you have, particularly with boots on the ground, but are there plans to expand or upgrade border infrastructure or some of those facilities to better handle that high traffic volumes in the near future?
Yes, indeed, Katako, we can confirm that in the past few years, the country had started a process of what we call the Triple P, that is the public-private partnership. This is the process that seeks to, in the meantime, upgrade as well as redesign and open up our top 6 land commercial ports. That becomes very much fundamental, because you will remember we have inherited these ports from the apartheid past. They were never built to facilitate these numbers of people, neither were they built to facilitate this number of trade in between ourselves and all of that. Today we talk about the issue of enhancing regional economic integration. We talk about intercontinental free trade area and all of those things. Therefore, there is work underway to make sure that we actually open up our top 6 land commercial ports. Here we talk about Beitbridge to Zimbabwe, and we talk about Lebombo here where we are to Mozambique, and we also talk about Oshuk to Eswatini, together with the 2 ports with Lesotho. That is Maseru as well as Ficksburg, and the last one is Kofontaine to Botswana. Those are the 6. And as we speak now, the engagements are ongoing together with the successful Triple P partners. And ultimately, the Triple P agreements will be signed. Next year, by this time, there must be some bit of work that will be happening on the ground. That is also going to assist us to implement the one-stop border post together with our immediate neighborhood, so that we co-locate with all of the immediate neighborhood and make sure that we do the processing in one place and bring efficiency, particularly in the movement of trade along the corridor.
All right, Commissioner, thank you so much for your time. It's certainly always appreciated that you're able to join us during such a very busy schedule, and we wish you all the best in ensuring that our ports are protected in the way that they should. That is the Commissioner for the BMA speaking to us there from the Lebombo border post. 300 processed in the last 23 days and 100 arrests that have been made alone just today.